has firmly cemented his legacy in terms of a reformer, in terms of accountability, process improvement, and the value scores that we have are going to help teachers to improve, and that's going to help students to succeed. And so this is going to be something that's going to take a little time, and if we're successful getting those federal dollars, it will supercharge our effort and get us there even faster, particularly to do staff development activities for our teachers, so that we can help those that aren't doing as well learn from those that are doing well. And the data shows us that. And at the same time, it's going to also help us to focus funds into our failing schools and those that are near failing. I think there's 13 failing schools in the state, one of those in Knox County. I'm not sure actually which one it is. I didn't actually see that list. And there's about another 70 or 80 schools that are near failing. And so the federal dollars will be helpful, but the reforms will help us even in the absence of those federal dollars.
Let me bring Bill Dunn. You have not spoken yet. Talk a little bit about the higher ed portion of this legislation, if you would, for us.
Could I say something besides that first?
Well,
because it's something that's really on my mind, and before we get off this topic, we keep talking about the federal dollars, and in my mind, those federal dollars don't really exist. It's all deficit spending. It's all being borrowed from the Chinese or whoever. And I'm not a great finance person, but everything I hear is that what we're doing by just cranking up the deficit is going to lead to a financial disaster. And so I just wonder that as we go about, we're going to try to make the world better for our children, in education and teachers' evaluations and stuff. If we destroy the finances of this nation and we have hyperinflation one day and it destroys the jobs, it really doesn't matter how much education they have. So what really worries me, and what I don't have the answer to, but what I just keep thinking over is, how do we control the spending in Washington, D.C.? And it didn't start with the current administration. It started way before, and it's just part of the culture down there. But it's something that, as legislators, we need to kind of think, how is our voice, how can we express this at the federal level to actually get some change? Thank you. And your thing was about higher education? Yes. Okay. What we did with higher education, probably Harry Brooks would be the best one to answer that, but I'll go ahead and give
you. You haven't spoken yet.
Well, I have spoken, so I sit down with Harry.
If you prefer. Harry.
That's why the Brooks and team.
Like an oil machine.
But they're breaking up in Nashville, not this one.
This one's rolling right along real good. The higher ed piece, that the key, in my opinion, is that we have a culture in Tennessee that says 2 or 3 things. One, when we talk about it, we say we need to go to college. There are a lot of families who don't talk about it. The cultural change we've got to make in Tennessee is to say our children need to go to post-secondary training. There's a significant difference between college and post-secondary. But the biggest change is the cultural attitude among parents and grandparents and kids. Post-secondary is absolutely necessary. It is not something that's an option. You can't say, well, I'm going to stay at mom and dad's farm and I'll just run the farm. Shoot, anymore, that's a 4-year degree to make it work. If you want to be an electrician, post-secondary training. If you want to be a mechanic, post-secondary training. There's not a significant, well-paying job that doesn't require post-secondary training. That's reality. We've got to change the culture in Tennessee to accomplish that objective. The post-secondary changes that we made said we're going to put more emphasis on that next step. We want to complete a post-secondary certificate, degree, whatever it is. In the state of Tennessee, the technology centers are doing a phenomenal job. The consultants looked at that data and said, this has got to be the best set of tech centers in the country. We lose sight of that piece of post-secondary. They're very good. They do a super job. Their placement rate on top of their graduation rate is still phenomenal. That too is good. If we had that kind of reputation in the other post-secondary institutions, we wouldn't have had this legislation with post-secondary training. But a lot of opportunity, but we got to start back with the cultural change. We need post-secondary training. We got to start selling that in middle school and elementary. We got to start seeing posters up in our middle school halls. about post-secondary opportunities. We gotta start sending in elementary schools. If you go to a charter school, you'll find in those middle school grades, posters everywhere, banners everywhere about post-secondary training. We've got to change the culture of public education in the state of Tennessee. Did I make any sense?
You did. Let's open it up to questions from the court. Go ahead.
Following up on what you just said about higher education, the faculty listserv at UT has been burning up this week concerning doing away with the articulation agreements that individual colleges have with the community colleges and having THEC adopt not only a general education curriculum, but I think it's 19 hours for the major. And so there's some real concern that while financially this sounds good to standardize things across the state, but there's a real concern of having THEC mandate 19 hours, which is, half of a major. And I'm wondering, what
It's
the thought is
19
on
hours,
that.
all of which won't be in the same major. They'll be spread across majors. For example, psychology, introduction to psychology. Any of you had that thing, that class? You had it, stick your hand up. You had it, college. Why can't we transfer the introduction to psychology from within the UT system, Chattanooga to Knoxville? I've been asking that question since I've been in Knoxville. I think the legislature, number one, reached the point of frustration. What do I tell parents that say, if that's not a good course in Chattanooga, we need to do something in Chattanooga? If we're doing a poor job in the community colleges teaching introduction to English 101 or 131, we need to correct that. But the point is, we've got to create a system to where it's quality, rigorous, good education in every post-secondary institution. And we're going to do that. But to say that from a standpoint that academically this is better here than it over there, then one of two problems. We need to fix over there in Tennessee, or there's something wrong with the attitude here.
Well,
And I'm not being critical of professors. I was adjunct professor for 15 years. But the point is, we've got to be able to say, we've got quality post-secondary stuff. What I think the faculty is concerned about is that we've taken away from the faculty some authority that they've had, and we've reached a point now. We've done the bulk of that 60 hours already. That's already done. All we're doing now is just finishing it up.
I don't think that they're concerned about the general education. I think it's the major part, and feeling that the faculty was not consulted. And I don't have a dog in that fight. I'm just telling you what the faculty members are.
In the code, in the law we passed, we're going to receive input and advice from the faculty, senates, as well as from the administrators. That's specific language. Great.
Harry made an important comment, I think, is about cultural change and inculcating the cultural change through how do we reach those parents who have no interest in, parents are so important to the education of the kid and where the kid wants to go ahead. But how do we get outside, go past posters in middle schools and communicate that to the entire community?
Y'all have a lot to do with it. Stop and think about it. You do. I have a lot to do with it. I think sometimes if we take that fellow that's an electrician, that's a member of the electrical union here in town, that works for KUB, put that guy in the middle school classes. So you're going to be an electrician? You got to master, not just take. You got to master algebra 2. We've got to send messages to everywhere. Now, how do we get the parents? I was reminded of, what was the book? Is it a thread that runs so true, Jesse Stewart thing? An old book a long time ago about a fellow that taught in the backwoods of Kentucky. He had the same problem, hadn't changed. The reality of it was that he still accomplished the objective. At the same time, he had to battle parents, but at the same time, little by little, he brought parents along. And it's something we've got to do little by little. We've got to begin saying, when you have a child, you got to read to them. You got to say to parents, when your kids are in school, go volunteer at the school. If you've got a business, you've got a vested interest, you need to support the schools. We know what our problems are. Now we want everybody to be a part of the solution. We want people to be volunteers. We want people to be mentors. We want adults and the parents in